All right, well, it's time for the next installment of teaching myself to Euro-Nymph, a really interesting style of fly fishing that involves using a very long leader and very little or no fly line outside the rod tip. So it's basically just fishing with the leader. You can check back and have a look at some of my earlier how-tos on Euro-Nymphing if you want to get a bit of background on it. But I'm doing something a bit different today. I'm down on the Euro-Nymphing River for the spawn run. It's just past the middle of May and the weather's getting very cold. It's about 5 degrees today. It tried to snow overnight. And I've come down here to the river with my Euro-Nymphing gear to chase some pre-spawn and spawn run brown and rainbow trout coming up into this river out of Lake Euro-Nymphing. It's a funny thing. Spawn run fishing seems to evoke a lot of debate in some circles. Some people don't agree with it at all, but actually when you think about it, half of the world's most famous salmonid fisheries are based on spawn runs. Things like the Tongariro trout fishery, all of the Atlantic salmon rivers in the northern hemisphere, they're all about spawn runs. So I think we can get a little bit too precious at times. There's really good restrictions and regulations on this fishery. You're only allowed at the moment to keep one trout a day over 50 centimetres in length. And to me, that seems like a really good piece of legislation. Most of the fish get released. And there's so many trout in Euro-Nymphing. I mean, more brown trout die of old age in Lake Euro-Nymphing than ever get caught by anglers. So I don't see a problem at all in taking advantage of these fish for these couple of weeks. They then get the rest of the season will close Queen's Birthday long weekend in June. They're all on their own after that and they can spawn to their heart's content, but there's plenty of trout in here. It's looking really good. The river's up a little bit. We had a little bit of rain overnight. I'm reasonably confident. I've never tried this before, spawn run fishing with the Euro-Nymphing gear, but I'll be very surprised if it doesn't work. All right, let's find out. One of the nice things about Euro-Nymphing is that you can fish just about any part of the river that has some flow, including stretches of shallow, riffly water that many anglers simply walk straight past. I prefer to stay out of the water if I can, but sometimes you need to wade to reach better runs. This is a short line game and you shouldn't ignore the really close in stuff right under your rod tip, especially if you have some cover like these tussocks. Flick your weighted nymphs upstream and let them bounce down naturally while watching your brightly coloured sighter like a hawk. If the flies briefly hang up on the bottom, a small rod lift or bounce usually gets them moving again. But fish each drift right to the end. Take a short step upstream after each couple of casts. Keep doing this and you will catch trout, I promise. Although they mightn't all be big, little residents like this get in on the act too. It's a racing brown, that one, skinny as. Very pretty fish. Almost looks like an Atlantic salmon. It's not, but it's got that sort of build to it. Handle them all gently with wet hands and get them back into the river. But if you keep doing it right and really focus on getting those flies down onto the stream bed to tick along the gravel with the flow, it's only a matter of time. It's a good fish. Come on, where are you going to go? I'd love to get you up above me. Strong trout on little hooks and fine leaders in fast water. It's heart-in-mouth stuff. Oh, he's a lovely big fish, this one. I'd like to try and get him out of that current if I can. You can't rush things. Let your long, soft rod and smooth drag do the work. Oh, he's going berserk. At the moment, he's still holding up into the current, which is great. 20 turns and takes off that I'm going to be in strife. Oh, he's coming back up past me, which would be fantastic. He's on the little top nymph too, which is a worry because it's a pretty small hook. I was going to reach for my net, but I think that's a little premature. There's Gaz down there below me watching. He might even get a chance to net this if it goes past him. There's a little bit of a backwater. Can I get him in here? Grab my net, which is suddenly looking very small. Do your best to steer the hooked fish out of the main current into quieter water to land it. Ooh, he's probably not quite as big as I thought he was. Just don't want to break this rod. You need to be really careful not to high stick your light rod and potentially break its tip.
Oh, that's a nice fish.
Yeah.
Well done.
I got another brown as well, smaller one. Yeah.
Nice.
Lovely fish. Bit lean, but great colours.
Can I just measure him?
Yeah. Oh, you've got to measure.
Well,
Don't tread on my rod there.
no. We're waiting.
Where's your zero?
Oh, well, I'm taking it from 10. Oh, the zeros, yeah, of course.
What is
19
it
inches.
There's nothing wrong with a 19-inch trout in my book. Before sending him on his way, I hold this buck briefly facing into the current just to get his strength back. But they recover pretty fast in this icy cold water. See you next year, mate. Despite the near gale force wind and the icy conditions, the next couple of hours were a blast. I didn't stay connected to them all, of course. Dropped him. Damn! But the next one wasn't usually too far away. There's one. Oh, he's just so powerful in that current. They fight hard in this cold water. They really do. It's a different kind of fight. They just don't burn themselves out. They just seem to save a little bit. They weren't all brownies either. It's quite common for rainbows to follow the spawning browns up the river in late autumn to steal their eggs. I was using a mix of flies, both natural nymph patterns and egg imitations like glowbugs. They all work. Beautiful fish. It's even starting to darken up a bit in the rainbow. All right. Nice. It was all becoming a bit of a blur with one fish after another. Much cleaner fish, this one. Dark ones and bright ones, hens and bucks, browns and rainbows. I love them all. Right. Get her in back down here. Off you go, girl. Do your job. It pays to check your rig after each fish. Here I'm using a size 12 glow bug on the point with a 4mm tungsten bead and a size 14 nymph with a bright tail on a dropper about 30 to 35 centimetres above the glow bug. It has about a 2mm bead head. But as red hot as the action had been, I was still waiting for that bigger fish, and I was pretty sure there was one out there with my name on it. As it turned out, I didn't have too long to wait for that fish of the day. It came from the very next stretch that I fished. Concentrate on my brightly coloured leader butt and see if you can detect the moment of the take. There's one. Oh, good fish. Good fish. This one shot off downstream in the current, but luckily eventually turned and came back up. It's always a bit nerve-wracking when they do the washing machine thing on the surface, but the hook stayed in this time. This one was a real performer, constantly carving up on top. Oh, it's a big fish. Oh, that's a gorgeous fish. This is when you're most likely to lose them. You need to try to stay calm. Not always an easy thing to do when the prize is so close. It still makes my hands shake every single time. Look at that. That one's pushing 4 pound. Better get a photo, I suppose. Alright, anyway, get the hook out. That glow bug's right back in the roof of his mouth. Came out easily enough though. This one's well and truly big enough to keep, but I'm not going to. They're much better to eat when they're bright and clean anyway. As this session progressed, I was becoming more and more confident about finding a few trout in almost every likely run, and constantly impressed by the short line effectiveness of Euro-Nymphing. This one, like so many others, came from almost right under my rod tip. They all performed exceptionally well in the fast, heavy water too. I'd stepped my tippets up slightly from the superfine 5X and 6X materials I used when Euro-nymphing these same streams in summer, but each encounter was still a memorable battle with no certainty of the outcome until the trout was finally in the net or on the bank. You simply can't rush them on these long, light rods, little hooks and fine leaders. It's finesse fishing at its finest in my book, and I really enjoyed every minute of it. I've fished the Eucambine spawn run on and off for 40 odd years with all sorts of different tackle, from spin to fly, and techniques ranging from lure casting to drift rigging and indicator nymphing. But I'd have to say that Euro-nymphing is one of the most effective and enjoyable strategies I've tried there. I'll be doing it again, that's for sure. Nice fish. Oh, they're all strong in that current. Beautiful, lovely hen. She's very clean and silvery. Not a huge fish, but a lovely trout. I tell you what, this Euro-nymphing during the spawn run, it's dynamite. Gorgeous fish. Just pinned there on that glow bug. Well, I think I've answered my question as to how well Euro-nymphing works during the spawn run here on the Eucambine River. Pretty well. Until next time, this is Starlo wishing you tight lines.